Ethan Klein, man. Oh my goodness me. I don't think we've seen such a spectacular fall from grace since Gary Glitter took his home computer in for servicing back in 1998, I think. You know, Ethan Klein used to be he was like at the forefront of the war against cancellation, I suppose. The war against, he defended the underdogs, the people who were being persecuted by the internet, and he called people out for doing horrid things, and he was just generally this beacon of light. I wouldn't go that far, but I remember watching the Charisma on Command video about Ethan Klein. It was a real good video, and it was like, oh yeah, like this is why people are drawn to him and so forth. This was a man of principle, a man with values, a man who stood up for what was right and just and true. Man, that Charisma on Command video has aged about as well as an Al Jolson greatest hits record. Jesus. But thinking about it, maybe he wasn't that person, because he does seem to be a trend rider. He follows bandwagons. He's one of them. Because when I first discovered him, I didn't really know too much about like YouTubers and shit. All I used to watch on YouTube was just random shit. I never got into like none of these people who called themselves YouTubers. I thought that was a weird thing to call yourself. I remember watching his content and I enjoyed it. I don't think it was fairly spectacular. I always considered like reaction type shit, even though I've done some stuff myself. I always consider it to be, sometimes it's, your reactions aren't as good as the content you're reacting to, which in many people's case that is very true. But anyway, throwing that aside, I didn't realize, the first time I heard the term social justice warrior was on one of his videos. First time I heard the term triggered was on one of his videos, for sure. I lived in my own little bubble where I just consumed, I just watched Breakfast Club interviews and shit, and stand up and fucking, and ass. Just lots of ass. But then I realized, looking back as I have consumed more content and learnt more about stuff, that was a trend at the time. Was the anti-SJW thing was a big trend. Feminist fails and all this kind of stuff. This was a big part of the YouTube ecosystem before the apocalypse. So he was kind of riding that trend, and I guess it became more obvious that he was constantly just riding trends, because he probably didn't believe in that stuff. He just saw that this shit was popping and it was making money. Because he definitely changed a lot when the demonetization came in, when it was harder and harder to do more edgy content. That definitely changed him, and changed his approach. Whether it changed him as a person, I'm not entirely sure. But for sure, that was a big change, because then suddenly he wasn't. He used to be making like 3 videos a week or something like that, and then he wasn't making videos for months on end sometimes. And he said, "Oh, I got depression." Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, when you start losing money, that is depressing, bro. A lot of people can relate to that, but you were making more and losing more than the average person. So that was kind of a like, is it though? Is it the depression thing? But looking back, first time I heard about Jake Paul, was on one of Ethan Klein's videos, reacting to It's Every Day, Bro. And I was looking at this going, this is terrible. That song was so terrible, it made me want to punch someone. That's true. But then I realized digging into it, I'd never heard of this guy before. Oh, everybody was making a video about that. Everybody. Hence, Jake Paul must have made probably 1,000 YouTubers millionaires. Possibly. You know, that guy had his finger on the pulse on how to really wind the shit out of people and make a name for himself. And then Ethan Klein went on to make like 4. He just kept making videos about Jake Paul over the most minor of indiscretions. You know, he's just like jumping on anything he could, and that was pretty obvious. Like, you know, there's the one where so some news crew turns up to the Team 10 house. I can't believe I'm a grown-ass man talking about this shit. What? You know, am I any better than this clown? My goodness. Oh my God, this is why I drink. Oh God, what's become of me? But anyway, this news crew turns up, and Jake Paul's showing off because his fans are 12, and what does he do? He goes, comments on the guy's shoes, acts a bit of a dick, and jumps on top of a TV van. And the way Ethan Klein was sort of talking about it is as if he'd like shot a pony in the face. You know? Literally, it's like, oh, you shot a pony in the face. Like, that was his kind of reaction to it. And I remember there was the thing when the guy went around Post Malone's house, and Jake Paul went around Post Malone's house with this merch that they'd ordered as a bit of a meme, and he just doxed him. He put his life in danger. It's like, calm down. He didn't put his address out there. I was like, all right, whatever. It wasn't as bad. What I'm saying is, again, it's this YouTube drama ecosystem that Ethan Klein is very much a part of. That he was just jumping on any topic he could that he knew would get views and clicks and money, and just running with it. And then you could just see the facade sort of dropping. And maybe this guy wasn't this wonderful and truly virtuous guy that championed the underdog and defended the defenseless, and went after the wrongdoers, because he is a fucking wrongdoer. I mean, perfect example now. I've seen a clip of this guy, this motherfucker. So he did a whole podcast titled "Joe Rogan Dragged Hila, his wife." And remember when she was just this quiet, kind of shy type? Now look at the state of her. Look at her. Like, goodness me. And all that happened. So Joe Rogan is watching a clip of Tim Dillon doing a stand-up show at Whitney Cummings' house, and Joe Rogan says, "Who's wearing the mask?" He goes, "Oh, that's Ethan Klein." They probably asked Whitney Cummings to say that. Mention us on his podcast, because Ethan Klein has blatantly wanted to get on that podcast for years. He's seen Philip DeFranco and Sargon of Akkad go on the fucking Joe Rogan podcast. He's going, why haven't I been invited on? Amazing Atheist been on there. He's like, why haven't I been invited on? He literally invited every single friend Joe Rogan has on his podcast, and Joe Rogan still doesn't know who the fuck he is. Neither does he care. He lives inside Ethan Klein's head rent-free. And what's he saying? He says, so he looks at Ethan Klein, she's wearing a mask, and he's like, and he just makes a joke, like, oh, you poo, what a pussy. Like, it's just a joke. Now, if it'd been the old version of Ethan Klein, where, he wasn't, he was chasing the money, but it was easier to chase the money. So he decides to get all outraged over, like, just a throwaway comment. The guy doesn't even know who your fucking wife is. And he ran with it. And he's going on and on and on and on and on about it. And he's been trying to manufacture a beef with Joe Rogan that Joe Rogan still doesn't even know who the fuck this guy is. He doesn't care. Because Joe Rogan has no interest in inviting a 38-year-old man who starts YouTube drama with a 20-year-old boy who wears makeup. He's just not interested in it, bruv. You're not coming on the show, bruv. And he's trying to manufacture beef because that's all he knows. Joe Rogan ain't from that space of like, oh, this is how you generate content. And this is all Ethan Klein does, is just generate drama and throwing out accusations at people. Someone comes forward and says, oh, Jake Paul might be a rapist. Like, I'll say, oh, there's some sexual indiscretions with this person, and he's immediately on it, accusing them of being rapists without any facts being presented. Because why? Because it's fucking YouTube drama, and it generates money, and that's all he gives a fuck about. Because he doesn't give a fuck about content, because his podcast is whack as hell. This guy just makes drivel. Tries to manufacture beef with everybody going. That's like the lowest common denominator. You've gone from being some sort of apparently as an aspiring comedian to just manufacturing beef with people. Like that is, do you know what I mean? Dressed there in his wife's weirdo fucking clothes, casting judgment on a 21-year-old millionaire. Like, it's like. It's like, who gives a fuck? So James Charles sends dick pics to fans, and sometimes he doesn't ask how old they are. Do you know what I mean? What's he guilty of? He's guilty of being a young rich person with a penis. That's what he is. That's it. Why the fuck why would I give a fuck about what he gets up to? I'm not going to cast judgment on him. He's a young man that's guided by his penis, and his penis leads him into very sticky situations. His penis makes bad decisions for him. Oh, really? Next you're going to tell me the sky's fucking blue? I could have thought of a better example of that. Sorry. Who am I, Ethan Klein? So someone comes forward and says, oh, Jake Paul forced himself upon me. It's some girl talking it in on video. Like, how many people have talked on videos about famous people, making all sorts of accusations, and we're living in a time of rampant narcissism and attention seeking. And as I've already mentioned in this podcast, it doesn't matter about what the attention is for. It's just the attention that counts. We've got rampant attention seeking, and this girl will say, well, Jake Paul took me in his bedroom and tried to, thrust his penis in my face. Instead of just thinking, well, is she lying? Is this true? No, it doesn't matter because, oh, fuck Jake Paul, I want to make money off his name. That's all I'll say, so fuck it. Bring your kangaroo court out. This is the guy that Charisma and Command made a video about, going, oh, what a wonderful person he is. My God, that video has not aged well. That's the fucking guy. You're to be doing that kind of thing, you're a piece of shit. Just don't even get involved in that shit. Remember when that Jake Paul kid was on his podcast and then accusing, one of the FaZe Banks, saying, oh, he sexually assaulted my assistant. Ethan Klein just sat there going, oh, whoa, dude, that's, terrible. This guy you've been making constant videos on, slating every aspect of his character, completely dressing down his character, picking him apart, making him out to be the worst thing since the Manson family. He's sat in your fucking house. I know it's not in his house, but, this is your house. Making wild accusations against someone on your platform, possibly committing slander, and you don't challenge him on it? You don't challenge this guy. But of course, because that's the definition, that clearly shows you're a piece of shit. This piece of shit behavior. Because later on, you allow him to throw wild accusations around, and then you hear some rumor innuendo, and then you throw wild accusations around without having the facts. Blood clot hell and fire. Blood clot hell and fire. Bullshit, Bridget. What the what kind of a The guy's a bimbo. You know, I think that's a suitable word. He's a bozo, a bimbo, a fucking airhead. I mean, he clearly is a bimbo, man. I said this is one of the saddest fall from graces we've ever seen, but maybe he's never been the guy he used to pretend to be. He's just always followed trends. He followed the Jake Paul trend, the anti-SJW trend. You know, I mean, look how he's completely changed how he dresses, and you know, he's making a show with Trisha Paytas where he doesn't anymore, and like they're doing all that YouTube, you know, the YouTube thumbnail poses, like, doing all that shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, he's doing all that shit, making content for 12-year-olds, even though all his fans are washed up 30-year-olds.